Now move to the key process here on the planning phase after we have understood what exactly collecting requirements. We have gone through the key inputs, techniques, tools, and the outputs. Also, we have seen that in practice. Now let's move to define scope as one of the key process of the planning phase or the planning process group. So what exactly, let's say, defining the scope? Defining the scope is a critical step in project planning. It ensures that the project team and stakeholders have a shared understanding of what will the project deliver and will not deliver. In this session, we'll explore the key, let's say, tools, techniques that is used to define the project scope and emphasizing their roles and creating a clear and actionable scope statement. So the key inputs that we have when defining the scope, the key inputs here includes the project charter, the project management plan, the project documents, the EEFs and OPAs, and the tools that we are gonna explore, including the expert judgment, which we have covered many times in the earlier sessions, the data analysis, the decision making, some of these team skills and personal skills, and product analysis. So we'll cover the product analysis as part of these tools and techniques since we haven't covered before. And the outputs, key outputs here is the project scope statement and the project, let's say, documents update. Let's understand the key importance of having a scope definition or defining the scope. So using structured techniques when defining the scope and utilizing the existing tools and techniques, it ensures that the project scope is well defined, leaving no room for misunderstanding. And these methods enable teams to identify the gaps or ambiguities early, reducing the risk of scope creep and ensuring the project alignment with the objectives. Again, so the key points here why we use techniques and why we have to use tools when defining the scope. So we say that it ensures the alignment between the stakeholders and project objectives. It also helps to identify potential gaps early, as well as it reduces the risks of scope creep. Let's take one of these techniques or tools that we might use when defining the scope. The first one is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a collaborative approach where team members share their ideas freely to identify any potential deliverables and to identify also the exclusions of the project. It is especially useful during the initial stages of scope definition to gather diverse perspective and insight. About facilitating a workshop. The facilitated workshops are structured sessions which is designed to bring the stakeholder together for focused discussion on the project scope. And these workshops are effective in resolving conflicting expectation and ensuring all of the parties agree on the scope boundaries, inclusion and exclusions. The next one here we have to cover is the document analysis that we might haven't covered before. So document analysis involves reviewing historical records and previous project documents to identify relevant information for the current project. It helps in understanding the potential risks, constraints, and opportunities, enabling a comprehensive scope definition. You can think of document analysis as a review of these historical projects or records that you have or the organization has implemented with their, for example, also lessons learned, so you can avoid falling into these mistakes. There's also a tool here that can be used, the prototyping, which we all already have covered in when collecting the requirements and defining the scope. So, prototyping involves creating, let's say, a preliminary model or mockup of the final deliverable, and this technique allows the stakeholder to visualize and provide feedback early, ensuring that the project scope is well aligned with their expectation and reducing the ambiguity. Also, one of these tools that you can utilize is the interviews with the stakeholders. Interviews are a direct method of gathering requirements by engaging the stakeholders in one to one discussion. This technique helps uncover any hidden expectation or misunderstanding or constraints while building a rapport and trust between the project team and the stakeholders. About mind mapping. So, mind mapping for scope definition, it can be considered as one of these visual tools that organizes the ideas and requirements in a hierarchical manner. It highlights the relationship between different scope elements. Also, it simplifies the representation of complex project requirements. To highlight the key benefits when using multiple techniques when defining the scope. So, using multiple techniques for scope definition ensures a throughout and comprehensive understanding of the project requirements. It aligns diverse stakeholder groups and reduces the chances of missed requirement. And also, it increases the confidence on the project success. To summarize our session about defining the scope, so we said that these techniques and we have identified what exactly defining the scope. So these techniques or the mentioned techniques that we have already covered for the scope definition, such as the brainstorming or workshops, document analysis, you know, prototyping and interviews and mind mapping. Each each of these tools or techniques offers a unique advantages. So combining these methods create a robust and well-defined scope that aligns with the stakeholder expectation and project objective.